You studied everything, you knew it, and then suddenly your mind went blank. Hello, this is Dr. Pooja, and welcome back. If you are a student preparing for important exams, you may know this feeling. You study, it feels like you understand, but in the exam, you cannot bring it back. So you wonder, I studied this, so why can't I remember it? The problem may not be your memory, it may be the way you're studying. Because learning is not just about studying again and again. It feels effective, but that's not just what works best. There is something else that works much better, and most students avoid it. Studying or rereading feels like learning, but it's not. It just feels familiar because the answer is right there. Real learning starts when you close the book and try to remember it yourself. That's retrieval, the act of actively recalling, and that's what makes it stick. This idea is not new. In fact, it was described as early as 1620 by Francis Bacon. He said, "If you read a piece of text through 20 times, you will not learn it by heart so easily as if you read it 10 times while attempting to recite from time to time and consulting the text when your memory fails." And this is exactly how our brain learns. The act of trying to recall is what strengthens memory. Even when you struggle, that effort is what makes the memory stronger and easier to access later. Karpik and Rodiger conducted a series of experiments on learning and memory. In one of their most influential studies published in Science in 2008, they asked a simple but powerful question. Once you have learned something, what actually helps you remember it later? Is it continuing to study the material again and again before the final test? Or is it actively testing yourself, retrieving the information from memory multiple times along the way? So the question is it better to keep studying or to keep testing yourself? In their experiment, students were asked to learn foreign language word pairs. They first studied the words and then were tested on them. Once a student could recall a word correctly just once, different groups followed different strategies. In one group, students continued both. They kept studying and kept testing themselves on all the words repeatedly. In another group, they stopped studying the recalled word but continued testing themselves on it again and again. In a third group, they did the opposite. They stopped testing the recalled word but continued studying it repeatedly. And in the final group, they stopped both. No more studying and no more testing for the recalled word. So, 4 groups, 4 strategies, and there was one goal, which was to remember the words after 1 week. At the end of the learning phase, everyone seemed to perform equally well. Now, here's the surprise factor. Before leaving the session, the researchers asked students to predict how much they would remember after 1 week. All groups predicted about 50%. Even the students who had stopped testing felt just as confident as everyone else. But when they were tested 1 week later, the results were very different. The students who kept testing themselves, that is group 1 and group 2, remembered about 80% of the words. Those who stopped testing, that is group 3 and 4, even if they kept studying, remembered only around 33 to 36%. In other words, studying more did not improve memory, testing did. And this wasn't just one experiment. In a 2006 review, Rodiger and Karpik showed that across many studies, one finding appeared again and again. Testing yourself works better than rereading. And what's remarkable is how robust this effect is. It works even when you don't get feedback, or it works even when the test format changes, or even when the material is complex. This is what psychologists call the testing effect. The idea that retrieving information is itself a powerful way to learn. But if testing works so well, why do most of us still prefer to reread? Because rereading feels easier. Right after studying, it can feel like you know the material well, but that feeling is misleading. When memory is tested later after a delay, those who kept testing remember far more. And why does this work? When you try to recall something, you actively bring it out of memory. Easy learning feels good, but it fades. Retrieval feels harder. It takes effort, but that is what makes it stick. But testing doesn't just strengthen memory, it can also prepare your brain for new learning. In a 2014 review, Pastoter and Ballmer showed something interesting. When you test yourself on what you have learned, you can actually learn new information better afterward. This is called the forward effect of testing. In many experiments, people first learn some material and then either test themselves or study it again. After that, they are given new material to learn. And consistently, those who tested themselves earlier learn the new material more effectively. And why does this happen? Researchers suggest a few possible explanations. One idea is that testing reduces interference between what you have learned before and what you learn next. Another idea is that testing may reset your brain's learning process, helping you encode new information more effectively. So, what should you actually do? Instead of reading your notes again and again, try this simple method. Study the material once properly, focus fully, understand the key ideas, then close the book. No peeking. Then try to recall what you remember. Say it out loud, write it down, or quiz yourself. Then check what you missed. Be honest, this is where the learning happens. And then study again, focusing especially on the gaps. Fill in the weak spots. And then just keep repeating these steps actively from time to time. Even 10 minutes of this can be more powerful than 30 minutes of rereading. Because study creates the memory, rereading creates familiarity, but testing strengthens the memory and makes it last. So this changes something important. Maybe learning is not about how much time you spend studying, but how you move between studying and retrieving. It's not about studying more, it's about remembering better.